Alrighty, we are here with Microsoft technician Brian Chrzanowski. He's going to be talking to us a little bit about Microsoft Azure, and we're going to throw it over to Jake here, and he'll have the first couple questions.
Yeah, so first off, what is Microsoft Azure?
Microsoft Azure is really a services platform from Microsoft. The three, kinds of as a service categories that exist in computing today, as far as I can tell, are there's infrastructure as a service. You can provide platforms as a service, and you can provide software as a service. Effectively, Microsoft Azure is really a it's computing for rent, basically, as a very, very broad situation.
So how would you define its purpose from a customer standpoint?
Well, any customer showing up to Azure, they want to basically spend money at Azure and hopefully get a better deal than where they may elsewhere. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but let me just explain. So back in the old days, if you wanted to have computing services, if you wanted to have like a server somewhere with your database, whatever, it used to be the case that you had to pay a person and you had to have a handful of computers on site, and you had to have someone watching that 24/7, 365. Otherwise, your customers might be impacted. Well, the idea is that Microsoft provides these services and Microsoft pays its people so that you don't, right? So I am on an internal, event messaging system at Microsoft, right? People basically pay the like VM team to make sure that VM spin up, VM destruction, all that stuff is taken care of for them. And they kind of go down the layers and they talk to a whole bunch of the internal folks to get services. We talk to all of the hardware technicians folks to get services. So really Azure is just a stack of services. And I know that sounds very weird and we don't have a whole lot of time to go into it, but that's, it's really, I need a computing service and I need it instantly.
Gotcha.
So what are some features that you like about Azure and what are some features that you dislike?
So, so all of the good things about Azure, again, all of the, the features and the benefits from Azure, they really come from the, I can kind of abstract and not really think about and not really be responsible for a lot of my computing, right? Microsoft can do that. So for example, I think the best feature on Azure or really any cloud provider is just the ability to get a whole computer, right? Like a 4-core, 2 gigabytes of RAM machine in the sky somewhere for just a handful of dollars a month. That's great, right? With a computer like that, just for a few bucks, you can literally be one of these crazy unicorn Silicon Valley startups. This is absolutely amazing, especially for all of you MBA candidates, students. So from that perspective, every single feature is absolutely great and tremendous. What are the features I dislike? Well, let me tell you. Microsoft, being a SOC 2 and other sorts of things compliant company, because they do business with large organizations, governments, etc. Let me tell you, if you aren't careful, you can kind of run up against the security brick wall. And so, you can be like, oh, I just want to do that. I just want to send an email and here I can do a thing really quick. Oh no, that's not allowed. And it's not allowed on Azure because your machine is siloed off virtually and right? So while I know it's great for customers, right? Whoever may have secrets up in a cloud system somewhere, it is a pain in the butt for me. All of the security features, I guess.
So sorry, I was muted. So Brian, what benefits do you feel Azure provides to the companies?
Sure. I feel like I might have already said this. We can go into it a little bit more. The benefits, really, again, it comes from these kinds of quick spin up, elastic demand, all of these other kinds of. So here's the deal, right? If you have a whole bunch of machines on premises, you've got some physical boxes, right? Let's say suddenly your service, let's say you make t-shirts, right? Your t-shirt website is hosted on premises, and someone on, what are the kids using these days? TikTok, someone on TikTok, they see your t-shirt, they go bananas for it. Well, if the physical computers that you have on site cannot handle the new traffic from all of the crazy, TikTokers, well, maybe now you can't provide t-shirts to people, right? In this instance, there's, I forget what it's called, but there are some services that Azure provides that can provide some elasticity horizontally and vertically, in terms of computing horizontally and vertically, to allow you to handle this new crazy influx of traffic. So, and I mean, honestly, that alone has saved numerous companies over the years.
Hi, Brian. So what challenges and risks do you feel Azure poses to companies?
Well, I'll tell you what. I think there is a big challenge, really, in the amount of complexity, right? So, again, back in the old days, I think a lot of these things are better with comparisons, right? Back in the old days, when you had machines on premise, you'd have a technician or two who would kind of be the subject matter experts, and they would know, what needed to happen IT wise, top to bottom. These days, if you try to use Azure or another cloud provider, the complexity that gets introduced with the features like elasticity, or I need to make a tool to spin up VMs for whatever purpose. There's just a lot of complexity, and one or two people is not enough to manage that anymore. So I think, from like an organizational standpoint, the amount of like human brain power that you need to kind of manage cloud services is, it's a lot higher.
Understandable. So Brian, what problems do you think that Azure has solved thus far?
I keep going back to this VM thing. So let me try to talk about something else. Well, one thing, and it's not Azure directly. I do know at the start of Azure, Azure was, Azure and a lot of the public portal kinds of things, they were designed, I would say, in like the Microsoft way, where you make a thing for like a low common denominator kind of a customer first, because that, that'll make you the most money or whatever. I'm sure you guys can elaborate on that as business professionals. But in terms of, oh, I'm an IT person and I would like to automate something, so I don't ever have to think about it again, right? Because if I can take the rules of my brain and I can stick them into a computer, they're much less error prone. From that perspective, it took a few number of years after the inception of Azure and a lot of the other infrastructure as a service kinds of things, to get well-defined and well-documented interfaces into Azure. That's been solved recently, I would say. So they solved that one.
Good. There we go then. And it sounds like it definitely helps with like a managerial standpoint as well, to where things can be shared much more easier within the company, and overall just much more clarity across.
Absolutely.
And our final question is, do you think the cost of Azure is equal to the value added in companies?
No, I think the cost of Azure is less than the value added to the companies, right? So there's like a net profit being made somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Here's how I know this. Microsoft internally uses Azure for, I don't want to say everything, but there is a lot of IT infrastructure stuff that happens on Azure, and the same data centers that run Azure for, customers, right? I mean, listen, if you can basically not charge yourself any money and use the systems that you've got, there's basically extra value that it. Is that how that works? Hold on.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
So, yeah. Well, that was all of our questions today, Brian. So we definitely thank you for taking time out of your busy day and for chatting with us. And yeah, we're looking forward to learning more about Azure as we move along our careers and such. So thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Brian.
Thank you,
It was
Brian.
a pleasure to chat.